Hello once again, and we welcome you to another broadcast of Chatting with the Rev. Today we're going to be dealing with a topic that is very current events, if you will, very apropos, very timely. We're going to depart a little bit from our usual topics dealing with disabilities, yet it all relates to everything. Everything is relative. Good afternoon, my dear wife Teresa, Lady T. Glad to have you with us again. We're going to be talking about this election and the political process as a whole. You know, this past Tuesday, November the 8th, we elected our 45th president of the United States, Donald J. Trump. And much controversy led up to his being elected, and even the more controversy has ensued since his election. Protesters have taken to the streets in every city, virtually in every major city in the nation, including my own, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Good afternoon, Scotty, and my cousin Stephanie. Throughout the nation, including Philadelphia, protesters have taken to the streets. Many of them have been arrested. Many of them it's resulted in violence and chaos. And we need to look at this whole thing a little closer to get an understanding. And so I'm calling this session, if you will, Political Science or Politics 101, the election of 2016. Now, you'll see me refer to my notes because I want to get the data and the information to you in the most exact, truthful, honest way possible. I don't want any room for any misunderstandings or confusion. I want you to understand the way this system works. I want you to understand how it impacts the lives of each and every one of us. I say to those who are protesting, as you continue to protest, I want you to understand that protesting, good afternoon, my dear brother Jeffrey, protesting without creating a sense of change and having a purpose to your protest will not result in any change at all. Someone was saying that they're going to disrupt the inauguration. They're going to make it so that there is no inauguration of Donald Trump on January the 20th. But I say to them that the inauguration, the oath of office will be given to Donald Trump, whether it's before the eyes of millions of Americans, or whether it's in the Oval Office with just a few witnesses and one of the Supreme Court justices dispensing the oath of office. It's going to happen. I remember in November of 1963, Scotty remembers it because we're about the same age, John F. Kennedy was assassinated. And there was no inauguration parade, no inauguration celebration for Lyndon Baines Johnson, the then vice president, soon to be president of the United States. Johnson was sworn in on an airplane coming back from Dallas, Texas to Washington, D.C. There were no priests delivering a wonderful benediction or invocation. There were no choirs singing, no gospel artists or professional artists performing. It was just him, Mrs. Kennedy, Mrs. Johnson, and a few other witnesses, as well as one of the Supreme Court justices. In fact, it wasn't even a Supreme Court justice. It was a judge from Dallas who swore him into office. So the fanfare and the celebrational aspect of Inauguration Day is for the benefit of the American people. If the American people don't want it or are threatening to disrupt it, they'll just put it in the Oval Office or someplace in the White House or take it home to where he lives. We're so used to seeing the president taking the oath of office on television and in a grand way, but that's not the law. So we have to understand the law in all of this. People say that he's not our president. People say that he's not legitimate. People even claim that his being elected is not legal. But I'm telling you, it is legal. In fact, it's more legal than what we think. And we're going to talk about that this afternoon in great detail. I want you to remember that this sort of thing happened 16 years ago. You remember those who were alive in the year 2000, the election of 2000? In the year 2000, two men were running for the office of president. The Democratic candidate was the then Vice President, Al Gore, and the Republican candidate was George W. Bush, then governor of Texas. Al Gore won the popular vote, just like Hillary Clinton did. But George Bush, through hook and crook, and through any means necessary, didn't hurt that one of the pivotal states, one of the swing states, was in the state of where his brother was governor, the state of Florida. Jeb Bush was the governor then. It didn't hurt that his brother was the governor. He won the electoral votes. It took a while, all the way into December, before we knew who the next president was going to be. So this is nothing new. It's happened 5 times in history altogether. 2 within the last 16 years. So we have to understand that the Electoral College needs to be scrutinized. The Electoral College needs to be examined. The Electoral College needs to be looked at and understood. Many people that are listening, including myself to a certain extent, did not fully understand and appreciate what the Electoral College is all about. I knew because I'm a political science major, or it was one of my majors. I had 2 majors, religion and political science. I also taught history and political science in high school, government, if you will. So some of this I knew, but as I delve into it, I got more and more understanding of it. I really wanted to get all I could get in terms of Electoral College. Because we need to understand what the Electoral College is and the role that it plays in the selection of the President of the United States. The Electoral College was established in the United States Constitution in Article 2 of Section 1 of the Constitution. It was established back in 1787. And keep in mind, during those early days, the ones who really chose the president were the elite. That's what the Electoral College was all about. Most people didn't even know who the candidates were. Remember, there were no TVs, no newspapers like we understand it today. There was no internet back in 1787. So most people never even saw the president. Most people didn't even know where the president stood or the candidate stood about certain issues that were vital to the nation. So though we were, quote, a democracy, I use it very loosely. My nephew, Amir, welcome Amir, he says he didn't think that George Bush had the intelligence nor the savvy to pull off what he did by himself. We know he had other help. We know his vice president, Cheney, was a very astute political intrigue person within government. But getting back to the point, the Electoral College was established so that the selection of the president was ultimately in the hands of the elite and those who were politically savvy. Yes, the people voted, as they do now. I want to recognize my cousin, Beth Henry Johnson. God bless you for being with us. But we have to understand that the system of the Electoral College, though it may have had its place back in the 1780s and maybe the early 1900s, really, we have to question its role in today's politics. Let me deal with the Electoral College a little further, if you will. As we said before, the Electoral College was established in 1787 under Article 2, Section 1 of the United States Constitution. The Electoral College is the formal body that elects, if you will, the President of the United States of America. Now, each state has as many electors or delegates, if you will, as they have House of Representative members and senators. The District of Columbus, or which we call Washington, D.C., has 3 electors. When voters go out to poll on election day, go to their poll on election day, they go to vote for the slate of delegates that will represent them in their state. And these delegates vow to cast their ballots for the presidential, vice presidential candidate that won their particular state. For example, I live in the state of Pennsylvania. And the state of Pennsylvania has 20 electoral votes. We have 2 senators. We have 18 members of Congress, the House of Representatives, which, once again, 2 and 18 will give us the 20 electoral votes. Now, when I and the other citizens, voting registered citizens of this state go out to vote, we go out to vote for the electors that will represent our state. That's what we're really voting for. And these persons are chosen by the political parties in each state. Good afternoon, Mark. To represent their party. So when we vote for these electoral delegates for our particular state. We have 20 electoral votes. We have 20 electoral delegates who cast their vote. And whatever candidate wins in a state, the delegates vow to and pledge themselves to support that candidate when it comes time for them to vote in December for the next president. This year, Pennsylvania went with Donald Trump. Therefore, Donald Trump got 20 electoral votes from Pennsylvania. Now you say, well, I didn't vote for no Donald Trump. I didn't vote. No, but the state went for Donald Trump. Many parts of the western state, many parts of the northeastern part of the state, even parts of the central part of the state, all went for Donald Trump, enough so that he won the state. And because he won the state of Pennsylvania, he therefore gets the pledge of those delegates from Pennsylvania to vote for him in December when he comes up for election through the Electoral College. Now, this is done throughout all 50 states and Washington, D.C. Now, for a candidate to win enough electoral votes to become president, they must have at least 270 out of the 538 electoral votes. Let me say that again. In order for a person, a candidate, a presidential candidate, to become president of the United States, that person must garnish 270 of the 538 electoral votes. Donald Trump won 290 electoral votes, and Hillary Clinton won 228, though Hillary won the popular vote by a little over 1 million votes. But when we come to December, Donald Trump has pledged for him the 290 persons, and Hillary will bring with her the 228. So in December, he will be officially declared the next president of the United States, and he will be formally declared president through taking the oath of office on January the 20th, 2017. This is not the first time in history that the Electoral College impacted the outcome of the presidential election. It has been done 5 times. 2 times within the last 16 years. Now, what we need to do, instead of walking up and down the streets in protest or boycotting the inauguration in January, what we need to do is to do something to guarantee that our next president is elected through the popular vote, instead of through the 538 persons selected to serve as our electors at the Electoral College. That's what we need to do. There are groups out there right now that are telling us to sign petitions to repeal the Electoral College, and some are saying not to repeal it, but to change the way it works, that it's antiquated in the way it works. We're no longer ignorant. We no longer have no access to information. We have a whole lot of access to information. You can find anything out on the internet. There's so many television stations. You have more TV stations than TVs out there. So there's no excuse for us not knowing. We have access to so much to give us information. All the information we need to get whatever we want done in this nation. We can make this nation as a people a democratic nation. Because I'm going to tell you the truth, it's not a democratic nation right now. We're going to talk about that a little later on. Now, in order to repeal or significantly adjust the way the college presently functions, all it takes is 2/3 majority vote, both in the House of Representatives and the Senate. Now, if it's that simple, why haven't we done it? If it's that easy, why haven't we done it? Well, the first thing is that we as a people, as American people, have not really pressed the issue. We got riled up when Bush beat Gore. Yes, we got riled up. No, there was no protest like it is now. But the people were in an uproar that it was a travesty of justice and all the rest of that. We were in an uproar for a time. They're in an uproar now with this Clinton-Trump situation. But in order to really make a difference, you got to change things. You can't keep on doing the same thing and expect a different result. There was a great writer that once said that. And it applies to politics like it does any other aspect of life. We can't keep on doing the same thing over and over again. And we're so reactionary. We're so reactionary. We very seldom take action. All the government, all people have to do is wait us out, and we get tired of the protest. That's why we haven't done what we need to do to get this government right, is because it's going to take a process of doing it. It's more than just a few months of protesting. It's more than just walking up and down the street. I'm going to tell you the truth. The civil rights movement wasn't just a few years in the coming. I'm going to tell you the truth. The civil rights movement go way back into the 1800s and beyond, really. But the modern civil rights movement began in 1947 and didn't end to the 1970s. But people like Martin Luther King, people even like Malcolm X, people like Ralph Abernathy, people like Andrew Young, people that stuck with it through the days and the months and the years and the decades and the scores of years. They stuck with it. They didn't just march. They went to see Johnson. They went to see Kennedy. They stood before George Wallace in his segregationist attitude. We had those that were radical that would take black power and drum it into the society's head. It wasn't no overnight venture. It was commitment and dedication and perseverance and sacrifice that got us what we have gotten already. No, we haven't achieved all that we need to achieve, and maybe we may even go back a few steps because of this new situation with Donald Trump being elected president. But we can change things. So one of the reasons why we still have electoral college is because we haven't done enough to make it happen. And we're going to talk about that too. But another reason is, another problem that we have with this whole thing is that right now the Republicans are the majority in the House of Representatives and they're the majority in the Senate. Now they got the president. Now what that means is this, that they said that means all the chairmanships, all the high positions within government, both legislative and executive, are held by Republicans right now, or soon to be after Trump becomes president in 2017, January 20th. Now you have to remember, the Republican Party, in terms of numbers who are registered that call themselves Republicans, is much smaller than those who call themselves and who have registered as being Democrats. And because of that, I doubt very seriously whether the Republicans will really aggressively push for the repeal of the Electoral College. Keep in mind that the last two Republican presidents, George W. Bush and President-elect Donald J. Trump, won the election, one in 2000 and one in 2016, through them working through the Electoral College. They both lost the popular vote, but they won through the Electoral College vote. That's interesting to note, isn't it? Neither Clinton nor Obama had to rely on one versus the other. They won the popular vote and they won the Electoral College vote. Both of them, the two Democrats who have won. But George W. Bush and Donald J. Trump both have won through the Electoral College and not through the popular vote. Do you think that the Republicans really want to push for the repeal of the Electoral College? I don't think so. Secondly, or really third, the small states like Vermont and Rhode Island and Delaware and New Hampshire and the like, they have a sense of power and influence because of them being small in population through the Electoral College. I looked it up today, and I discovered that states like Delaware, Rhode Island, New Hampshire, Vermont, enjoy the influence they have through the Electoral College. You know, some of the swing states include states that we consider small states, states like Massachusetts, Idaho, New Hampshire, Wyoming, Vermont. They helped decide this election. Yet most of those are rural areas and they don't have great numbers in population, yet they have enough influence because of their influence in the Electoral College. They don't have a lot of votes, but they have swing votes. 2 here, 4 there, 6 here, 8 there. Add them up, though, and you begin to see the picture. So the likelihood that Congress or the states themselves will push for the repealing or even the serious examination of the Electoral College is very unlikely. So what can we do? I've been saying for the longest time that we have to understand that it's not just the president that we need to scrutinize. It's not just the president that we need to concentrate our efforts on every November, every 4 years. We need to look at the senators and the congresspersons as well. I just told you how powerful they are. They sit in the committees, the budget committee, this committee. Supreme Court justice will be approved or rejected by the Congress. The Electoral College can be repealed only through the Congress. Obamacare can only be destroyed through the Congress. Everything is done through the legislative branch, which is the House of Representatives and the House of the Senate. So what can we do? We can begin to move towards establishing term limits for senators and congresspersons, just like we do for the President of the United States of America. The President can only serve 2 terms, 8 years in office. No matter how good that man or that woman may be, no matter how talented, no matter how experienced, no matter how good a job they've done as president, once that 8 years is up, they're up. Yet we have congressmen, both black and white, who are sitting in Congress, who have been there for 52, 45, 38 years. Senators the same way. We have senators that have been senators for 42 years, 55 years. When you stay in office that long, nepotism and corruption is a natural consequence of the situation. Hello, Melody. We have to deal with the terms of these officers. Senators are elected for 6-year terms. 1 term is 6 years, in other words. Congresspersons, their 1 term is every 2 years, ends every 2 years. I say, and I believe this will be fair, equitable, and certainly advantageous to the American people, if we limit the terms of office in both the Senate and the House of Representatives to only 12 years. That means the senators, because they serve 1 term is 6 years, they would only have 2 terms in office. 6 years apiece, 12 years. Congresspersons would have 6 terms at 2 years apiece, which would average out again 12 years. So senators and congresspersons would only have 12 years in office. Then no matter how good of a job they've done, no matter who they are, no matter who their daddy and their mama was, they would be out of office after the 12 years is up. It happens for the president. Why not happen for the congresspersons and the senators as well? It's called equity. When you do that, when people know they're not entrenched, that they're not grounded forever into an office, they begin to listen to the people that decide their fate. They know they're going to be out in 12 years. So, keep in mind, every year they're up for election. For senators, every 6 years. It don't mean they have to be in there 12 years. Since it's every 6 years, you can be there 6 years and I vote you out after the 6 years is up. But no matter what the case may be, they can stay no longer than 12 years. Congresspersons can stay no longer than 12 years. After that, they're gone. I think that Supreme Court justices, now who are life-termers, they stay in until either they die or they retire. They should have 20-year terms. After 20 years, you're gone. If the most powerful man in this nation can only be president for 8 years, that's what I'm saying. We don't have to worry about all this stuff. We talking about Hitler and all of that. Hitler was a dictator who, if the war had gone good, he would have been in charge of Germany until the day he died. He lost the war. He committed suicide. We know the history of Hitler. There were no checks and balances. People talk about, well, it's the same thing. No. Germany was not a democracy. Hitler was chosen by Hindenburg, who was the president at the time. Von Hindenburg was the president at the time in Germany in 1933. He was chosen to be the chancellor by Hindenburg because he had a majority in the Duma. Well, actually, the Duma is the Russian parliament, but the Reichstag, which is the German parliament, the president, von Hindenburg, appointed him chancellor. Nobody appoints the president. Nobody appoints the vice president. If you want to equate the chancellor to the vice president, the president and vice president is elected by the people here in this country, or at least they claim themselves to be. They're certainly not appointed, certainly. We have to understand the rule of law. If we want to change things, we have to do it through the rule of law. If you want the popular vote to be the only vote that counts in the selection of the President of the United States, then we need to change the law. Marching ain't going to change no law. Protesting is not going to change any laws. But shifting some of them senators and some of those representatives, this year was something, because all 435 congresspersons was up for re-election this year. This could have been a wonderful year. You know what happened? Virtually all of them went back into their office. Virtually all of them went back into their office. So the Republicans still remain in control of the House of Representatives. 24 out of the 100, a quarter of the senators were up for re-election this year. What happened? We took one seat and all the other ones went back into their office. They're in the majority again. Here you have 435. Every congresswoman, every congressman was up for re-election this year. Many of them have served 40, 50 years. Many of them have served 20 to 25, most of them 25 to 30 years. But we let them go right back in. Then when they do something like increase the age before you become a senior citizen from 65 to 75, when they do away with Obamacare, when all that happens, hi Danielle, how you doing? When all that happens, we're going to be complaining, this is wrong. We have the opportunity this year. 435 congressmen were up for re-election, and we let everybody back in. And the Democrats are the majority party in terms of the registered voters. We're still a minority because the Republicans, got their people back in. We got one senator. Thank you, Steph. We got one senator and an increase. So the Senate remains Republican. The House remains Republican. Hillary had 60 million people. Trump had 59 million. So don't let me, you got the 59 million Americans plus voted for Donald J. Trump. And he was shrewd like he was with that tax thing. He found a loophole. He realized, I'm not going to win the popular vote, though he almost did that. But I'm going to go to those states that will win me the Electoral College. I'm gonna get Pennsylvania. I'm gonna get Michigan. I'm gonna get Florida. I'm gonna get North Carolina. I'm gonna get those states. I'm gonna get those swing states like New Hampshire. I'm gonna get those states, and I'm gonna win this thing. And he did. 290 to 226 electoral votes went to Donald Trump out of the 538 total, the majority. And virtually half of the people that were registered and did vote voted for him. Hillary, 60 million. Donald Trump, 59 million. That wasn't that much of a difference. He had a mandate too. We need to do something to change the system. And we do it by getting the legislature in a position where things can be done. 12-year term limit. 2 terms for senators and 6 terms for congresspersons. 12 years for both. That's it. After you're 12 years up, you're through. You'll start seeing a change then. They'll start doing things then because they know their time is up. They want their legacy to be one of prosperity. They want to be renowned, remembered as people that made a difference in this country. That's what we got to do. Term limits. I'm gonna tell you something else too. I've heard people talk about Trump's gonna get in there and he's gonna do this and he's gonna do that. There's such a thing in this country as checks and balances. Oh yes, there is. There's such thing as checks and balances. We have 3 branches of government. The executive branch, which the president heads. The legislative branch, which is headed by the senators and the congresspersons that are elected. And we have the judicial branch. The judges and all of this. And let me say this too. I want to put this little footnote before I leave the term limit. Some people will say, well, why would the Republicans want to end their terms? Why would the Democrats want to end their terms? Many of the 25 to 50-year-old people, 50-year servers, are Democrats too. Why would they want to leave these terms of offices? Unlike the president, dear hearts, there is no electoral college. They're voted for directly by the people. We can make it happen. We can make term limits without it being officially on the book. Don't have to be no amendment for that. But if we keep on doing this, it'll become an amendment because we're going to put people in there that'll make an amendment. Let me tell you what I mean. All we have to do, everybody got internet, we looking at this, we looking at that, we looking at the other every single day. We're on Facebook, we're on this thing, we're on Snapchat and Instagram and every other kind of mess, go on Twitter and all that kind of stuff. What we need to do is Twitter ourselves right to the browser and find out who your representatives are and who your senators are. Find out 2 things about them. All you got to do is find out 2 things. How they voted. Everybody's voting records is right there on the internet. And how many years they've been in service. That's all you have to do. That's all you have to do. Now, I said we have, in my state of Pennsylvania, 2 senators and 18 representatives. But I only have 2 representatives. Actually, you have 2 representatives and 2 senators, actually in my district. And so what I need to know is who they are and how long have they served. So when I go into the booth, I'll look at, let's say, Dwight Evans, and he just was made a congressman. He won the congressional seat here in Pennsylvania, in my district. And so I will say, okay, he just got in, I'll give him a chance and all this. I'll wait 2 more years, look at him again. I'll do that a few more times, and then after his 12 years up, I'll look, and then he's gone. And no matter what he's done, he's gone. Same with my senators. Toomey in the other one. My area's Toomey. And I'm going to look at them, and I'm going to look at their records, and I'm going to see just how long they've been in service, and then I'm going to vote one way or the other. It's a simple process. Look at their record, which should determine whether you vote for them because of that, and then also look at how long they've been in service, how long they've been a senator, how long they've been a congressperson, and then vote. If everybody would take just that and much of effort, which wouldn't be nothing but go to your internet, look up let's say I would look up Toomey. I would look up Toomey. How many years has he been? It's right there. What's his record? What's his voting record? It's right there. I'm through. Boom. It's over. Now when November comes, I'll start with the primaries, which is the first part of it. Of course, Toomey's Republican. I'm a registered Democrat, so I can't vote in the primaries against Toomey. But I can deal with him in the general election. Now, he was up this year, so he will not be up again until 6 years from now. That's the senators. Senators have 6-year terms. A 6-year term, and congresspersons have 2-year terms. So my congressperson has to wait 2 more years, then I can look into Dwight Evans, see what he's done, voting record in the life. And I can either re-elect him or help re-elect him or cast my vote for someone else. These are things we can do. But getting back to the check and balances, no one has absolute power. I'm going to tell you the truth. Unlike what the media would like you to believe, and people would like you to believe on these talk shows that want to talk about politics like they really know what they're talking about, you know, the president alone can't even decide whether he wants to push the button to blow up the world. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. You know, when Franklin Roosevelt wanted to declare war against Japan, and during World War II, after December the 7th, 1941, when Japan attacked Pearl Harbor, he had to go to Congress, a joint session of Congress, and tell them that he wanted to declare war, and they had to approve it. Just not that easy. Just not that easy. There's a check and balance. The executive enforces the law. He don't make laws, he enforces the law. The legislation, which is the House of Representatives and the Senate, they make the laws, and the judicial branch, the United States Supreme Court, and all of the other courts, lower courts like the appellate court and all of that, district courts and all the rest, they actually interpret the law. See whether the law that the Congress has passed is even legal. See, you can't even make any old kind of law. It has to go through the scrutiny of the Supreme Court. President can't do everything, any old thing he wants to do. Remember the impeachment of Bill Clinton? You can be impeached. And who stands as the impeachment agent, if you will? It's the other 2 branches of government. The United States Supreme Court Justice, the Chief Justice, serves as the judge. The Senate serves as the prosecutor, and the House of Representatives serves as the prosecutor, and the Senate serves as the jury against the president. Yeah. He can be impeached. He can be, that's law. So this is law. This is where we can hold people to the law. We as citizens can hold you to the law. Not our feelings, not our emotions, not how we think it should go. But we can hold you to the law. The law says if high treason and controversial decisions can be scrutinized by the Congress, and if they see enough evidence, they can impeach you. Richard Nixon was about to be impeached. That's why he resigned. Clinton was about to be impeached, but only for a few votes, he would have been impeached. So don't think that because he's president now, he can do everything he wants to, carte blanche. Oh, no. He's scrutinized. And if they want to, they threatened Obama with impeachment a whole lot of times. They didn't have enough evidence on him. He didn't do anything that would warrant impeachment. But they would always hover that over him like a carrot over a rabbit's head, trying to keep him in line. But because Obama didn't do anything, he had no scandals, no nothing about him, thanks be to God, and nor his wife, nor his children, they weren't able to do it. They wanted to. Lord knows they wanted to. If they could find something on Obama they could have really hung him with, they would have got rid of him. And I'm going to tell you the truth. The attitude that the Congress had toward, the Republicans in Congress had toward Obama created the Donald J. Trump phenomenon. It did, it really did. Final point, and I'm through. So we have checks and balances. Don't worry about somebody pushing the button by themselves. Don't worry about that he can't be touched. It's too late. No, don't worry about all that. If he goes too far, he can be impeached. It still takes Congress to declare war. There's other people that have to push buttons. There other people got the codes and all that. So it's a lot to this. It's more than what meets the eye. There's some things the president can do through executive order. But dropping an A-bomb on a country, that's not executive order kind of thing. Final point. Democracy versus oligarchy. Oligarchy is government ruled by a few. Oligarchy. 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 Oligarchy is a government run by a few. A democracy is a government run by the people, for the people. Which one are we? We call ourselves a democracy. But really we're an oligarchy. That's right, an oligarchy. My wife yelled it out. We're an oligarchy. We're run by a few. We're run by the lobbyists, the 1%ers, the people behind the scenes that we don't even know their faces, some of them. But they run this country. They run every politician from president all the way down. Now, I don't know how much they're going to run Donald Trump. They ran all the rest of them to a certain extent, every one of them. Good, bad, or indifferent, they ran every one of them to a certain extent. And let me tell you this, that I'm through. I'm through after that. After this. Ever since the days of George W. Bush, the people of America have wanted somebody different than those experienced politicians. What do you mean, Rev? Because I'm going to tell you the truth. Obama was a one-term senator. He had just been a senator from Illinois one term, the first 4 years. After his first 4 years, he ran for president, and he won. He wasn't a seasoned, experienced politician. Bernie Sanders almost beat Hillary in the primaries. If it wasn't for the scheming and the espionage and the sabotage that took place against Bernie, he may have been the nominee, and I believe he would have beaten Trump because he was the flip side of Trump. He talked about the 1%ers. He talked about raising the minimum salary, the minimum wage from $7.25 to $15. It was him that talked about that, and much of Hillary's platform incorporated Bernie Sanders' platform. So people were frustrated. They're tired. They've been tired for 8 years. They didn't forget about George Bush and how he became president. Oh, no, they didn't. That's why Obama won over Hillary Clinton then. That's why Bernie Sanders almost beat Hillary Clinton this time. And I believe would have under a fair and equitable competition. And then Donald Trump beat her. Americans, for the most part, except those that profit from this system the way it is, are tired of the way things are. Black folk, yellow folk, white folk, poor folk, middle class folk, everybody but those on the top folk are tired the way this system runs. They were tired in 2008. That's why Obama became president. They were tired in 2016. That's why Donald Trump beat 16 other experienced politicians. And Hillary Clinton nearly lost to Bernie Sanders, a senator from the small state of Vermont. Independent at that. He's not even registered as a Democrat. He's really an independent running on the Democratic ticket. But he almost beat her. And then you're surprised that Donald Trump did beat her? People are tired of the status quo. Them people are talking about, even with our dear President Obama, stressing the point of her experience. There's nobody more experienced. People are tired of these experienced, professional, if you will, politicians that know how to play the game for their own benefit and for the benefit of those that they represent. They're tired of it. And I'm going to tell you the truth. People are not swayed with kissing the babies every 4 years type of thing either. We've gotten that game too. Courting the black community every 4 years. They'll court the black community, go to church and sing Kumbaya and Amazing Grace and all that stuff they do every 4 years. And after the election's over, you don't see me. I'm going back to my old Presbyterian church, my old Methodist church where my grandmama used to go and all that. You won't see them anymore until 2020. That's the next time you'll see folk coming out, kissing your baby. Coming out, going to your church. Coming out, going into your community. When they need your vote. Let's make a difference. By not idly standing by until 2020 comes. Or not dealing with non-effective methods of protest. But if you really want to protest for real, get up, roll up your sleeves, and begin changing the institutions that are presently very comfortable in where they are. Only by changing things in Congress, only by repealing the Electoral College, only by doing something and sticking to it until it gets done. Nobody ever wins a war by winning one battle. You have to keep on fighting until the war is won. You may lose a couple of battles, but that don't mean you can't win the war. There's my son-in-law, Carlos, God bless you. We got to stand up. We got to fight for what we want. Get rid of politics as usual. Get rid of those senators and those congresspersons that have been there since before I was born, some of them. Not really, because I'm 65 now. But they've been there when I was a baby. Oh, yeah, some of them, they were fighting and marching in 1958. No, I was, 6 years old. You've been there a long time. See, something you can be somewhere so long that you lose touch with the people. You lose step with the people. Well, we're going to deal with this more often, and we're going to deal with this even in other aspects of it, and in other forums, if you will, blog talk, where you can actually have a feedback, a conversation going on. But I want you to listen to what we're saying. Stop the marching and get things done. Because marching alone ain't going to do it. Boycotting inauguration is not going to do it. He's going to still be inaugurated. You can bet your bottom dollar on that. If they got to have it in the Oval Office, if they got to have it in the White House, if they got to have it in his basement, he's going to be president of the United States come January the 20th. Only when we begin to change things will things begin to change. Let's start by looking at this electoral college in a serious vein, rallying, getting our folks together, look at this thing, make things happen with that. We need to change how we elect and allow congresspersons to stay in there forever. We got to get rid of these guys. Yes, we do. Even the guys that call themselves friends, even those who have been friends. If you've been in there more than 20 years, more than 25 years, you need to go. I say 12-year limit. Been in there 12 years, you're gone. And it don't take no congressional action to do that. I can do it every time I go in the booth. If everybody did it, if all 59 million people would have voted to take out those 435 persons that were congresspersons this year who are up for re-election, if we would have said no more for all 435, it could have been done. But we always think, well, we can't do. Well, this person can't be elected president. That's a wasted vote. It's only wasted because you ain't voting for it. We got so mind bogged down in you're either Democrat or you're Republican. Don't get so entrenched in any one particular party. There was a time that the Democrats hated black folk. The most racist president of all was Woodrow Wilson. He called the first birth of a nation, the one made in 15 rather, as the greatest film ever made. It was like thunder that streaked through the sky of the world. Refused to let W.E.B. Du Bois come to the White House when he requested it. Never sat with Frederick Douglass and all the rest of them. Didn't want to associate with black folk. A racist to the extreme. He was a Democrat. Ku Klux Klan started in Tennessee in 1867, but started by Democrats. The early Reconstruction senators and congresspersons that were black for that short period of time, right after the Civil War, about a decade they were able to sit in Congress, they were all Republicans. Don't ever forget Abraham Lincoln was a Republican. And though he's given more credit than what he should be given, he was more open-minded than virtually everybody in the government at that particular time. George Wallace stood there in the University of Alabama and said, segregation today, segregation tomorrow, segregation forever. Democratic governor of Alabama. Alabama of Arkansas, Bill Clinton's hometown, home state, if you will. Pledged that no nigger. That's what he said. That's what he said. The N-word. Would ever go to the University of Arkansas. And it took a Republican president. Yes, it did. It took a Republican president, Dwight David Eisenhower, to send troops into Arkansas and make them open up the doors of the University of Arkansas to black folk. Somebody talking about that there's going to be a war now because the Republicans always lead us into wars. What? World War I was started by Woodrow. Well, not started by. We got into World War I because it was started in Europe. But we got into World War I under Woodrow Wilson, Democratic president. We got into World War II under Franklin Roosevelt, Democratic president. We got into the Korean War under Harry S. Truman, Democratic president. We got into Vietnam under Lyndon Baines Johnson, Democratic president. Yes, the Desert Storm and the Iraqi War and all that were under the regime of Republicans, but so many wars, some of them, certainly the most major wars, were under the hands of the Democrats. Come on, people. Let's learn the truth. The Bible says that the truth will set you free, will make you free, will liberate you. Well, dear hearts, that's about it for today. Hi, Jackie, my cousin Jackie. That's it for today, but we wanted to bring you knowledge today. I know my son-in-law will give you some more knowledge. But we want to begin bringing you knowledge so you don't walk and move and act and respond with blinders on. Uninformed, talking about what should be and it's against the law. And we know these things, the Electoral College right now is law. It's law. People talking about Trump didn't reveal his tax returns. There's no law that said he had to. That's tradition. As a president, you don't have to reveal. Yes, the past 40 years, presidents have always revealed their tax returns. Yes, that's true. And I think he should have done it. But to say it's against the law, no, it's not. No law requires a president to reveal his tax returns. Truth. Let's get to changing the law. Then we can hold the law responsible. When we begin to change the law, make the law more conducive to us instead of conducive to those one percenters and those lobbyists and those others that rule this country for real, then when we say something's against the law, it's going to sure enough be against the law. Well, God bless you. Carol Sturgis, how you doing, my friend? Young man from Delaware. So tune in again on Monday. So much has happened in this world, I can't ever say what the topic's going to be, but you can bet your bottom dollar, whatever the topic's going to be, it's going to be on topic. It's going to be something that we need to hear and something that we need to act on. Until then, have a wonderful weekend. God bless you, and see you on Monday. Bye.